Thanks so much for having me, and thanks to the board for inviting me to speak about what the Net Zero Committee has been up to and what we're planning. I'll note that it looks like 2/3 to all of the Net Zero Committee is on the call, and so they can obviously correct anything that I screw up over the next 15 minutes here. I'm Matt Hoffman. I'm a professor of political science at the University of Toronto and a member of the Net Zero Committee, and also a resident of HVRA. I live on Robert Street. I just want to give you two little pieces of context for our work before I delve into what we've been doing. And the first part of our context is kind of an obvious one. It's the climate crisis. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but all that is to say that it's bad, it's getting worse, and there's lots to do in a short amount of time, right? And so this has certainly been something on our mind as part of the Net Zero Committee. The other context for our work, though, is that there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on in the political and policy processes around climate change. It's not enough, certainly not enough to get us out of the crisis yet, but there's a lot going on. In 10 days, the next UN climate meeting will kick off in Glasgow, and here countries are going to be supplying their renewed commitments in support of the Paris Agreement. And this will be a recurring theme, but those commitments will not be enough to get us to the goal of 1.5 degrees above 1.5 degrees warming that's in the Paris Agreement. But there's some progress. We also have a national climate plan in place, as well as a municipal climate plan. I'm going to leave aside the province for this for the moment. Both the city and the government of Canada have relatively ambitious goals, although, again, recurring theme, not ambitious enough. Goals for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, 40% cuts nationally by 2030, and 65% cuts by 2030 in Toronto. And we also have both municipal and national net zero goals, right? And so net zero goals is becoming a sort of a very popular climate pledge. And so we see these at the global level, we see at the national level, we even see them at the city of Toronto. And just to clarify, because we're seeing this term net zero quite a bit these days, net zero doesn't mean no greenhouse gases, right? It means that any greenhouse gas emissions that come from Toronto, for instance, would be offset by greenhouse gas emissions that are captured by plants and trees, or by carbon capture technologies. And so to get there, though, we're going to have to really reduce our emissions and ramp up the ways to take greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere. Essentially, we have to make enormous progress getting fossil energy, oil, coal, and gas, out of our society, out of our energy systems, out of our economy. And so this is the kind of thing we normally think about with climate action: global treaties, national plans, even city plans. So what's the relevance? What does this have to do with Harvard Village, right? What is the relevance of a net zero committee for our neighborhood? And this is sort of the reason why, or some of the main ideas behind our committee. Well, there's a couple of reasons why it's relevant. First, change is coming to our neighborhood, right? We're going to see changes in how energy is generated and used, how buildings are constructed and heated, and how we get around, how our communities are organized. There's going to be these changes happening as Canada and Toronto move towards net zero and getting rid of fossil energy. And we have an opportunity then to be a proactive part of the change, to get ready for these changes, to be part of them. And second, we actually have a contribution to make, even as one neighborhood in a large city. We matter practically. In Toronto, 55% of greenhouse gas emissions come from buildings and 36% come from transportation. So if you just look at homes and personal vehicles, that's about 60% of Toronto's greenhouse gas emissions. We simply aren't going to reach our ambitious Toronto goals without the active contribution of homeowners and changes in how we get around. But we also matter for generating momentum. What we do as a neighborhood works symbiotically with what we can do as a city and nationally. Our work in Harvard Village hopefully can inspire action in other neighborhoods and make it easier to make progress in the city and even nationally and hopefully provincially. All right, that's enough of the sort of context and sort of lecture-y talk. Sorry, I got on a little bit of a professor jag there. My real purpose tonight is to give you a sense of what the Net Zero Committee is all about, what we've been doing, and what we're planning to do, right? Now, with the leadership of Tim Grant, our committee chair and the engine that keeps the Net Zero Committee moving, we started work in 2019, meeting in person of all things. And we formally became a committee of the HVRA in 2020. And we came together precisely because Harvard Village has been one of the greenest neighborhoods in the GTA. But we're convinced that we could do more as a community, that Harvard Village could be part of an active participant in Toronto's efforts to become a net zero city by 2050. And we're really driven by two broad goals. And the first is developing and sharing knowledge. We all have a lot to learn about making our homes and transportation choices climate friendly and low carbon. And we're reaching out to the community to see what people have done, what people would like to do, and what people want to know more about. Committee members have engaged in research on options available for making different choices for our homes and for our transportation. And our goal is to spark discussion in the community, provide the neighborhood with toolkits and information that is necessary to help them make changes in what they do with their homes and transportation, especially when people are ready to make those choices. And our second goal is developing partnerships. We're formally partnering with Transform TO, the city agency leading the fight for carbon reduction in Toronto. And also the Atmospheric Fund has generously provided us with some funding to pursue some of our projects. The city knows that neighborhoods will need to be a key area of action for its climate ambitions to be fulfilled. And what we learn here in this project, I think not only that we're hoping to spread it around, but I think the city of Toronto is as well. But pursuing an ambitious neighborhood plan together also means working to make change as affordable as possible. And so part of the developing partnerships is not just with the city or the Toronto Atmospheric Fund, but it's to provide information and connections between residents who want to do things and the sort of vendors and contractors who have the means and resources to start helping people make changes. And so we're working to bring together vendors and groups of residents potentially interested in bulk buys. This is one of the things on the horizon for us. But it's also just about identifying and doing that research on who's in this space and who's doing this kind of work that can help residents cut out some of that work and make those choices easier. So those are our goals. And we've been up to a few specific and more concrete things around these. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the neighborhood survey that we've launched into the field, as well as two of our projects, the electric vehicle or electric mobility project and the home retrofitting project. So with the survey, with funding from the Atmospheric Fund, we put out a survey to get a sense of the appetite for and knowledge of options for reducing emissions from our households and transportation choices. Over 400 of you, many of you on this call, and 400 HVRA residents took the survey, and we're in the process of analyzing the results to help plan the next steps for our strategy for the next Net Zero Committee. I thought I'd give you some of the headline results, and I'm happy to go into more detail in the Q&A if people are interested, because they're actually pretty crucial, I think, for how we're developing plans for these projects. All right, so some headlines. We asked, the survey included both things on home retrofitting and electric transportation. On the home retrofitting side, well, first let me give you a sense of who took it. It was mostly homeowners, about 77% were homeowners, mostly long-term residents with an average length of residency of 21 years. Interestingly, and this is, I think, is a big opportunity for our ambitions around renovations, about half have renovated in the last decade, but about half have homes that haven't been renovated in 10 or more years. And so there's some big opportunities here. Everybody uses natural gas at this point, pretty much 94% for heating, and almost everyone has air conditioning. And so there's a lot of places here where some home retrofitting is going to have some potential traction. one of the things that I really that was really crucial in the survey is that there's a big pool of motivated households that want to at least start considering taking on home retrofitting. And one of the things that I think is really important for the HVRA and for our committee is that 75% of those that took the survey indicated that having an HVRA program would make them more likely to undertake retrofitting, right? And people have a lot of different motivations, but a lot of the motivations are about livability and about caring about climate change. Now, of course, financial incentives are important, and 90% strongly or somewhat agreed or indicated that government subsidies would be an important consideration, and 80+% want to see decreased utility bills from potential retrofits. But 97% of people are interested in thinking about home retrofits because they're worried about climate change. In this significant pool of motivated households, the fact that we have so many people that are interested in acting on taking on home retrofits means that there's lots of opportunities for pilot projects, there's lots of opportunities for demonstration, and there's lots of opportunity for orchestrating some bulk buys, right? And so one takeaway that we took is that our net zero project is well placed to address the biggest concerns that people have. Because our survey showed that what people need to act is information, connections, and financial incentives, right? And this is how we're going to orient our work moving forward. We're going to work on the expense side in terms of getting people information about subsidies that are available through the governments, but also bulk buys that will hopefully reduce some costs. We're working on that knowledge gap, and I'll talk about how in just a second, as well as contractor relations and vendors. Now, on the electric mobility side, we saw some other interesting things, right? First, we're mostly walkers, 97%, and bike owners and car owners. Interestingly, almost nobody has an electric bike in our neighborhood. Only 9 out of the 400+ people that took it have an electric bike. The good news is we see a lot of potential opportunity for reaching, I think, some pretty ambitious goals around electric mobility. And what we found in the survey is that in our neighborhood, there's a lot of old cars, right? 40% of the cars in the neighborhood are over 10 years old, according to the survey. And people are taking a lot of short trips. 60% of people's trips are less than 10 kilometers. These are great numbers if you want to start convincing people to get out of gas-powered cars and into electric mobility, whether that's electric cars or electric bikes. And so we take away from this that there's lots of curiosity. In fact, people were very much interested in especially electric cars. In fact, 65% definitely or likely plan to purchase an electric car for their next vehicle, but not a lot of experience. And so one of the things that this also tells us is that there's a great opportunity for the Net Zero Committee to do some really good education around electric mobility, as well as building up some infrastructure. All right, so let me talk very briefly then, because I know that we're running behind, and in case there's questions, about our 2 different projects that are being informed by the survey results. First, we have a home retrofitting project, and here our goal is to encourage Harvard Village residents to consider low carbon and zero carbon retrofits by providing information and connections that are necessary to help people make those decisions. According to the survey, people are interested in all kinds of possible retrofits, but want to know more about them and don't feel like they have the knowledge or connections to make decisions right now, right? And so we're looking to make it easier in a couple of different ways. First, we've already held 2 informational webinars, one with an architect who knows all about green buildings, and one with a City of Toronto official who provided a great overview of the financial incentives and subsidies that are available for people to take on low carbon renovations. Both of these are available on the website, that linked on the HVR website if people miss them. We're also working on energy audit support. A home energy audit is a key foundation for thinking about low carbon renovations. It can help with the planning for what you need, but it's also required for most of the subsidy programs that are available from the government for offsetting the cost of renovations. So we're developing an energy audit support document that's going to help people prepare for energy audits, also some of the basics on interpreting results, and also developing lists and of connections with companies that do these audits in our part of the city so that residents know who they can turn to. We're also working on what we're calling, or I guess I'm calling here, retrofit information kits, because there's so many different things that people can do with their houses, from energy efficient appliances to insulation to heat pumps to solar energy. We're developing and doing research on our committee about what's out there in terms of the options, cost estimates, available subsidies, as well as sourcing for work, so that when people decide they need to have something done, they can turn to the low carbon option and have the information readily available. And down the line, our goal is to organize bulk buys around some of these renovation options. We also have electric mobility project. This is our second one. This project's being developed with a generous grant from Taft, the Atmospheric Fund. We're interested in seeing what kind of potential there is with a neighborhood pilot project. We're doing a couple of things here, and we actually have a pretty ambitious goal of seeing 50% of new vehicles purchased in Harvard Village to be electric by 2025. And we're doing both informational work and some practical stuff. So first, we have a neighborhood charging station project. I know that this came up in a few of the discussions. Part of the TAF grant is geared towards increasing the availability of accessible charging stations in the neighborhood. We've been engaging with multiple stakeholders on this, Green P parking folks, TDSB and the city, and to try and figure out where we can get charging stations in the neighborhood and who we can partner with on that. We've also held one and hope to hold more electric mobility fairs. And I say we here, but really this was Nicole Schulman who did all of the organizing and put on a great event a couple of weeks ago, where we closed off one block section of road on Sussex and got 5 electric bike vendors to come with some of their options to talk with our community and let them try them out, right? And it was a huge success from our perspective. Over 100 people came out and attended and tried all kinds of different electric vehicles. There's Tim trying an electric cargo bike, and the vendors were happy as well. And so we plan on doing more things like this. I know I'm running over time, so I'll just end there and say thank you. I'm happy to try and answer any questions you might have. And if I can't answer them, I will toss them over to the other Net Zero Committee members who are around the Zoom table here. But more than that, I also want to encourage you to check out our materials and take part in our activities when you can. This is a passion project for most of us on the committee, or at least I can speak for myself. It's a passion project for me. And we're excited about the possibility of Harvard Village being at the forefront of net zero and decarbonized Toronto. So thank you very much.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Matt. This is really an invigorating way to end our meeting. There's so many great things going on, so many great initiatives, and I'm so grateful that there are this passionate group working. And I want to thank all of you on the committee for all the work that you've been doing on this. Like, getting all those answers on the survey was in itself a great a great feat, and now you got some really fantastic data to work with. So as Lena put in the chat, incredible amount of critically important work being undertaken by community members for benefit of the community, all volunteer, bravo, and sincere thanks. Yeah, so I'm just going to see if there's anything else going on in the chat so we can take a look. How do we get in touch with you?
Here, let me put the Harvard Village. We have a website connected to Harvard Village. If you want to get directly in touch with me, let me just put my oops, I think I'm sending that. Hold on, I don't think I put it into everyone. So there's the Harvard, I just put the Harvard Village, the Net Zero Committee website in the chat. And let me just put my email in the chat as well. You can also contact Tim Grant, who's the chair of our committee, or Sue Dexter, or Sue McDonald, or Jody Solomon, or Nicole Schulman, or Gus. Who am I missing? David, I think David Bose was on here too. So there's lots of us.
Excellent, thank you. Sue has also mentioned in the chat, I want to highlight, stay tuned for a webinar on heat pumps at the end of November, November 23rd or 24th. So we'll be publicizing that once we have more details. And, you know, I think, would it be fair to say that, you know, any of these webinars are open to people outside Harvard Village? Because I think other people would really benefit from having the knowledge. Should we encourage that?
Yes, we absolutely do. In fact, we publicize our webinars through Transform TO, and we've directly publicized them to neighboring associations. In fact, one of our mandates for this project is we're trying to sort of figure out and put in the work to put these together so that other neighborhood associations can sort of pick it up and run with it. And so, yes, we've sort of actively encouraged people from beyond HVRA to join in these webinars as well.
Great. And, you know, I want to congratulate our group as well for being a leader in this area too, that we're setting an example and we can spread it so people don't have to reinvent the wheel. Question, car sharing. Is that a potential carbon saver?
I don't have the numbers on that, and so, but let me speculate to say it's good carbon potential if it decreases either the number of trips that one takes, right, or if the car sharing options are electric or hybrid, right? And so if you are going from owning a gas-powered vehicle and taking lots of trips with that gas-powered vehicle to car sharing an electric or hybrid vehicle, and that decreases both, so that would both decrease the number of trips that you take necessarily, because you're not just going out to the laneway to grab your car, but you're making arrangements to do the car share. So if it decreases the number of trips, or if you are using a different kind of vehicle in car sharing, that has good carbon potential. It also sort of decreases the number of cars that are sort of being produced and on the road. So that's in a sense good. Yeah, I'm talking about the car share that is, you know, cars that are parked and used communally, not Uber and Lyft. Essentially, Uber and Lyft are, the numbers that are coming out there show that they're actually pretty making things worse, at least according to the New York Times.
Yeah, so like Zipcar, for instance, would be, or, you know, any of those other ones. I can't remember what the commercial car sharing ones are, but yeah, you don't have to own a car, but you can pick one up in your neighborhood. Communoto, yes, thank you. That's the other one. Enterprise has started a car share as well. I noticed a parking spot right across from Central Tech. So it's great. You know, there are options, definitely options for Harvard Village people. Yeah. Okay, I think that was it for the questions. I'll give people just another moment to think about anything. And now that you have contact information, I encourage you to start, you know, take a look at the website and see what we've got there. And feel free to contact anyone on the committee if you want to volunteer with them or have any other great ideas or questions about that.